Today I want to take you through the Lightroom process at Rocket Media to process a home, and I'm going to want to do this by taking an existing listing that I've already shot and walking you through the entire process from start to finish with every photo that's in that house. You'll want to watch this video in full screen so that you can see where I'm clicking and what I'm typing on. So to begin with, we're going to want to be on the Library tab, and I'm going to click on Import, or you can do Control-Shift-I. And then I'm going to go to Documents, CBRB, Listings, Digis, and I've set up one that's just called Test here. And I'm going to go down to the Photomatix result. Now I'm going to use the exterior preset under Develop Settings, User Presets, and if I go to Rocket 7 Exposure Exterior, now I'm going to uncheck all of these. Now I want to select these first four because they are all exterior photos. And the way I do that is I click on the first one, and then I shift-click on the fourth one, and then I click on the checkbox. That will highlight and select those. Then I'm going to walk through all of these where I see blue on them and select those, and that could be blue sky out the window, or you might have a blue rug or something else in the frame that is blue. And so I'm just walking through these and looking at it. This bathroom is blue. And I'm going to pick this one because it has blue sky out the windows, probably that one as well. Master closets mostly have blue in them because they have blue jeans. This is a duplicate of a storage one, so I'm going to select that. Here's one of the dining room. And then I've got all these exteriors, so I'm going to click on the first one and shift-click on the last one and select it. Now with that selected in the exterior, I'm going to go ahead and import it. Now in the past, when we have done front photos, we've used the vertical setup so that when it aligns it, it brings it up the upright to vertical. But sometimes that can move the top of the house forward so it looks like it's almost tipping over. So I've gone typically to a level on the fronts and the back where you're facing the back. And if I click on level and just keep going through these, then it doesn't look like it's popping forward. See, if I go to vertical and then watch the top of the house, kind of pushes it back a little bit. Now on the fronts, we need to go ahead and adjust the visual for those. I'm going to go ahead and expand out the right-hand side so you can see it a little bit better. So now I'm going to click on Auto, and I'm going to bring the peaks to about 80% under Exposure section. So you've got blacks, shadows, exposure. Notice how it gets a little bit lighter. And then you have highlights and whites. So on the exposure, you've got this gray area. And what we want is to have the peak be right about 80 to 100%. And we're going to do the same thing over here. We start with hitting Auto and then bringing the peak up to about 80%. And then Auto and bring the peak up to about 80%. Same with this front one. Now in the front, we're going to click on Auto, bring it up to about 80%. Looks like we're not quite vertical on this, and it may be just the way the bricks are laying. So I'm going to try Auto. That seemed to clean it up a little bit, and Auto seems to be the best. One of the things you can also do is by clicking on Constrain Crop, and then you can click on Vertical, you can actually take any of that additional change out of there, and now it's totally vertical on there. At least on the bricks over here. This is probably leaning a little bit now, but it looks better. So now it's going in here, and I'm going to an inside picture. And we're going to go ahead and click on Auto. Now this is something pretty new that we haven't been doing. Over here on the right-hand side, you have the radial filter, and when you click on that, all you need to do is change this to about minus 0.75, and you can click on it and actually type that in, and then click on invert. What this will do will be to briefly highlight the windows and darken them a little bit. So if I click and drag over this window, it creates a little highlight window over the top of them. And now if I do it on this one, it gets a little darker, and this one gets a little darker. So our inside can be the right exposure, and the outside can also be a little bit darker so you can see out there. Now this is a bathroom that I did, and it looks like I got a dust spot on there that expanded out. And I'm going to go ahead and click on auto, get that set up right. But this wasn't a purple room, but because of the different color temperatures in the lighting, it appears that the hue got off on this. It was actually a blue room. So you really have to watch this when you're shooting to make sure you understand what the color of the room is. So all I'm doing is going in here and clicking on hue, and then this little color picker right here. You click on that, and then you can click and drag in different directions, and it'll change the color from purple to green, and you can actually make this more blue, which is what it was. So something like that looks about right, but it's also a little bit too light. So now you click on luminance, and with that same picker turned on, you come down here and you can darken it as well. So I want to get rid of this little spot over here, and I'm going to do that by clicking on the spot removal tool, and I'm going to highlight it, come over here, highlight over this spot, and then I'm going to take this and bring it right above here and kind of make it a little bit like that, and I'm going to go ahead and feather it just a little bit. Now when I hit done, notice it kind of got rid of that spot. All right, so now this is one of the bedrooms, and you can see out the windows. I'm going to go ahead and click auto and make it a little brighter and click on the radial filter. And now I'm going to start in the middle of the window, and I'm going to pull straight down. And this allows you to create a couple of ovals. And because we don't have a huge amount of exposure variance on here, all it does is bring out a little bit of the outside. But if you made this a little darker, you will start to see it looks really weird. And not only that, if you have any spillover on the upper side because this is too big, you'll actually show that the window frame gets darker as well. So I'm going to change this back to minus 0.75. And then even if you have this a little bit too big, you can actually, it won't show too much. If I hit done, you can see how there's a little bit of darkness around the window, but that's just a natural thing that often happens anyway. So now I'm going to go back here and click auto. Now with our exterior exposure, we have none of the yellows are decreased. So if you do an interior image, you're going to want to go into the saturation, click on the picker, and bring down the exposure a little bit, or the yellow saturation, because it's going to turn out too yellow. Now I'm going back here to the radial filter and highlighting the window. Now the only thing I need to do in this one is actually just click on auto and bring it back up. Same here, there's no windows in the storage, so I'm going to click on auto and bring it back up. Notice it's, this top peak is right about 100% within that center gray box. Here's another one. This is a dining room. I'm going to bring it back up, but now we have a need for a radial filter to go over the windows to bring them back. And now we're outside. These, all we need to do is click on auto, bring them up, auto, bring it up, auto, bring the peak back up to 90 to 100%. One more. Now this is a back shot. It's going to adjust it. Let's go ahead and finish up the exposure adjustment. This one is a duplicate, so I'm going to delete it and just go straight to the next one, which is here. And then I'm just finishing up the exposure. Now on these back shots, I'm also going to want to change the upright so that it's also, watch the top as I change it from vertical to level. Just pushes it back just a hair so it's a little less. Notice the walls aren't square to the side of the image, but it also makes it, that gives a little bit more of that perspective. And this really is apparent if you've got a 3-story building and you can't get very far away from it. Go ahead and use the level, and I think it'll work better. Now I'm going to select all the images, and I'm all done with these, so I'm going to export them. File, Export. And I'm going to choose the date. In this case, it's already on the correct date. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to click Export. So now all the exterior images have been finished, and we're going to go ahead after this gets done and import in all the rest of the interior images, and we can apply the radial filter to those images as well. And so what we're going to do is, now that it's done, we can go ahead and click on Library, and you can click on Import, or you can once again do Control-Shift-I. Click on that Photomatix result. By the way, if you take your camera card out, it will stay in the correct folder. So as long as you have your camera card in, it's always going to want to go to that camera card first. Now these two images are duplicates. I'm going to go with the first or the second one. This one we actually redid because the light wasn't on. Same with this one in the hallway. So I'm going to uncheck those. Then I'm going to go through all the rest of these and make sure there aren't any dupes. That one we've already done. We've got the storage one that's duplicate. We don't need this exterior because that was also a duplicate. There may be another one in here that we come across a little bit later, and we can just Alt-Delete it. So now I'm going to change this from Rockin' Exposure 7 to, and let me go back here and so you can see this. So now I'm going to click on Interior, Rockin' Interior. At this point, we're currently using 2020-0120. Yours may be slightly different if we've selected a newer one. I'm going to bring this back. And now we're going to go ahead and import this in. So while these are importing, this preset includes the upright transformation so that it will set up on vertical all automatically. And so you don't need to do that, but you do need to wait as you use your arrow key to move to the next one. You have to wait for it to pop in and do it. If you start working on some of the other elements before you do that, you'll end up with it not doing the upright position correctly. So on these, we're going to go ahead and also do the auto. Bring this up to about 100%. Now we can bring out the windows by once again using the radial filter with the same settings and just putting an oval over each one of the windows. This one, the window really doesn't bring anything out of it, so I'm just going to scroll down here and do auto and then bring it back up. And then I'm going to do the next one. No windows on this one, so I'm going to click auto and bring it back up. And auto and bring it back up. Same with this one. Now this one has some windows, so I'm going to first do auto, but I'm already clicked on the radial filter, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight each one of these windows just to bring them out a little bit more. And the same thing is true with this one. Go ahead and bring up the exposure to this level, and then I want to bring the windows back, or what's outside the windows back a little bit more. And it doesn't do a ton, but it just brings enough of it. Same with this one. So I just keep clicking on auto, bringing up the exposure level to 100%, and then I'm already on the radial filter and I can go ahead and click on it. For some reason, my program is sending out a little black half a second every time it does this. You'll see that flicker. I apologize for that. I'm going to highlight these windows, and now I'm going to go for the next one. Click on Auto, and highlight this window and this one at the end of the hall. Just remember, don't get too impatient with the system, or it won't have time to do the upright to vertical. So I'm clicking on Auto, bringing it up, and then I'm going to highlight these windows and just make them a little darker. It doesn't add that much time to the overall process once you do it enough. As you can tell, if I hit Auto, click on this, bring it up, I can highlight a window, and another window. And if you need to move it, you can do that as well. There are also controls that you can do. This one doesn't have anything on the outside. So if I do Auto, bring it up, can't see anything out the windows anyway, so I don't need to worry about those windows. Auto, bring it up. Auto. And now we can see out the window in this master bath. I'm going to go ahead and click on Auto, bring it back up, and then I'm going to, using this radio filter, I'm not only going to bring out the window there, but in the mirror and the reflection, you can also use it on there to bring out a little bit of the sky. So I'm just continuing through here, going to adjust these remaining images. The window at the end of the hall, you could fix that if you want to, just by highlighting that. Now this one, if you notice, if I try to do this little window over here to the right-hand side, it puts up the controls for this window, and so that I've already done. So you can hit Done, go back and click on Radio Filter again, and then you can highlight the other window. The other way you could do it would be to just go outside of where these controls are, estimate the size of the window, click on it, and then you can drag it onto that position. Either way works. It's kind of a pain. This one's a little bit smaller or too big, so I need to shrink it down. So it's more precise if you hit Done, Radio Filter, and then put in a new one. If you have 4 windows that are right next to each other, you can do the first and the third, and then the second and the fourth, and that will usually avoid that issue as well. Let me go back here and do Auto. Bring it back up. Now remember, when you're looking at a shot where you're looking down, it's going to, the vertical upright is going to really mess it up. So I'm going to first do the color correction, and then I'm going to come down here and turn that off so you don't lose that looking down. Now on this one, we have windows out here. I'm going to go ahead and draw it. Notice how it wants to draw it vertical to the screen, but the window's slanted. So this is where you can use these parameters to actually turn and rotate that window if you want to. So this one, once again, I can do it here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it, but it's a little bit too big, so I need to also bring it size down. So that's one of the values. And you don't have to be right when you click on it. You don't have to be right on the edge. In fact, you want it to be just off of it to do the rotate, and to do the size, you need to be right over the specific point. And now I'm going to go back up here and select Auto and bring it back up. Auto, bring it back up. Highlight the windows, darken them just a little bit. Auto, bring it back up. Highlight the windows. Have few more. Here we go. And here's one. No windows in that one. I'm hitting the arrow key to move to the next one. Sometimes it doesn't do the alignment, so you can just go to the previous image and come back, and then it will adjust it. So if you get to one and you go, wait a second, that doesn't look straight, just go toggle between the two by using your arrow keys. Auto, bring it back up. Auto, and back up. Auto, and bring it back up. Auto one more time, and auto. Now this one, there wasn't a window. We were okay on that. All right, now we're almost done. I have to bring that back up. So the peak is right here at 100%. And if I wanted to bring out some blue, because there's blue sky out that glass window, you can do that. You can also darken these up a little bit as well. Now I'm going to select all by doing Control A. That selects all these images. And because we already did the preset and exported it to the correct folder, I'm just going to do Export with Previous. So it appears like that is all that we need to go over to having your photos outputted and processed in Lightroom. The next step will be to rename them and upload them to either Box or to Listing Concierge, or both.